everyone, my name is Emily Recker. I chose to highlight the artist Hannah Hoch. I'm titling my presentation Hannah Who because I feel she was not given the recognition she deserved within her associated movement and specifically as a founder of photomontage. A little background on her: she was born November 1st, 1889 in Germany. In 1912, she went to the School of Applied Arts in Berlin and she studied glass design. She left shortly after during World War I for obvious reasons, and then she re-enrolled in 1915 to study painting and graphic design. A lot of what she focused on would be woodcutting and linoleum block printing. Shortly after, in 1915, she met Raoul Haussmann, who she had a romantic relationship with. He was the one who introduced her to the Berlin Dada Circle. This circle was made up of artists such as George Grosz, Wieland Herzfeld, and his brother John Hartfield, obviously Raoul Haussmann, and Hoch was actually the only woman in the Berlin Dada group. The Dada group members, including Hannah Hoch, were given credit for creating photomontage. Hannah Hoch states that Dada photomontier set out to give something entirely unreal all the appearances of something real that had actually been photographed. Hannah states in an interview that the idea for photomontage was brought to her attention when vacationing with Raoul in the Baltic Sea, where they would see a trick that one of the official photographers of the Persian Army Regiment used. So this trick was that they would have a lithograph mounts, and these photos would be set up with uniformed men, and they would have their faces cut out. They would be set to a background, and then when a customer would come in, they would place a portrait of the customer's face within the scene, and later they would color them. She considered this to be a primitive form of photomontage. As simple as it sounds, let's go over a little bit what photomontage is. So basically, it's a cut and paste aesthetic. It's kind of similar to collage, except they did this by cutting and pasting from newspapers, books, posters, magazines, leaflets, or really anywhere they found inspiration, and they would take these cutout images and paste them in a way that didn't make complete sense. So she would put, for example, here, a man's body on a woman's head, something that didn't match, but it was used to state something totally different. One idea behind photomontage was to use something composed by a machine, a nod to modern industry, cut that up and transform it into something that no machine could compose. From 1916 to 26, she worked at a Berlin magazine publishing house, which was comparable to Vogue. She wrote articles on design patterns for women, different sorts of crafts like knitting, crocheting, embroidery, and that position gave her access to a lot of supplies and images and text that she could use in her work. This is one of the reasons that I feel she was the main creator of photomontage and had a larger role in the creation than her male co-creators. While some viewed photomontage as just another form of collage of nonsensical cut and pasted images, it was anything but that. Hannah Hoch made sure that her photomontage was very political and social. She hated the German government, specifically the Weimar Republic, the period from 1918 to 1933, after World War I, but before the rise of Nazi Germany. It was said that this was a time of disaster. It was basically an experimental democracy, but it was also proven to be very unstable and not well liked by Germans. In this work, she pays close attention to the entire work as well as the individual parts. She leaves space between some images to do this. This keeps the images isolated because they have their own meaning, but also keeps them a part of the larger scene and the larger meaning. In Cut with a Kitchen Knife, Dada through the last Weimar beer belly culture epic of Germany, there are many notable politicians, revolutionaries, and identifiable people, and part of this work makes it very real and a great political and social critique. I show this work not because I want to analyze it, but specifically because The only time I've ever heard of Hannah Hoke was this work. In all the collections of art and art history books, this is pretty much all she's recognized for. I also mention it to give a base for the background of the society in which Hoke was immersed. Her work, The Beautiful Girl, is a nod to the new woman, but also she states that she does not focus on it. The glorification of the modern woman was never something I look for in my work. I've been, in contrast, more often motivated by women's suffrage. She was often referred to herself as a representation of the new woman who broke the stereotypes that this work speaks out against. When asked if she sees gender equality, she states, in utopia, yes. Under patriarchy in a consumer society, no. Because even though the Weimar Republic was stated to be focused on the new woman being free-thinking and independent, it was a false sense of equality in a male-dominated world under an unstable society that put more pressure on the new woman. We see her work speaking on industrialization, but more so on the injustice women face, sexism, and women's suffrage, and how the consumer society furthers this. She incorporates in this work many details pasted in that represent women as a product of the consumer society and makes a nod to that. First, my eye is drawn to the perfectly set hair. This can represent ideas of conventional beauty. However, the face made up of an advertisement represents what drives the ideas of conventional beauty. We see a woman's face in the background. This is not idealized as her eyes are not proportionate. Hoke often removes faces or made features distorted to give the feeling of confusion of what a woman's role was, as well as making idealized women fragmented and unrelatable. Another female sits in the center with her legs crossed. Her bottom half is kind of idealized as she holds an umbrella. Her face is replaced with a light bulb. We also see a tire to her left and a sort of gear crank to her right. She sits on an industrial bench, and all these things can be seen to represent the machinery age. The BMW logo is a nod to this as well. However, it's also a nod to the luxury advertisements and the sought-after commodification-driven culture. We see multiple BMW signs represented. They're repeated, and that can be seen as mass production. Also, BMW, because those were popular in Germany, and it was actually seen that those were one of the ways to boost the struggling economy. The clock, I feel, represents how women view time and aging. We see the ideas of what is considered conventional beauty, and we see the irrationality in her work mirroring the irrationality of the society of the time. Hannah Hoke was an innovative personality within the Dada group, and being the only female member, she was able to give the vital female perspective in an unjust male-dominated culture. I feel she was not highlighted as much as her male counterparts for a couple reasons. One, she's a female in a male-dominated society and field. They also really had no reason to value the woman's perspective. And two, she was resilient in her outspoken works that criticized themes of politics, society, economic injustices, among any others. I think it's safe to say Hannah Hoke agrees with this notion of injustice, as she states that most of our male colleagues continued for a long while to look upon us as charming and gifted amateurs, denying us any real professional status. With that, it's safe to say that she was undervalued and deserved more credit.